Good day, everyone. Welcome to G Class 101 in collaboration with Miss Shy. Hello once again, everyone. So let's continue discussing the visual arts, and the next under this is still under the visual art. So we're gonna talk about the subject of art. To majority of people, the appeal of most works of art lies in the representation of familiar objects. Their enjoyment of painting, sculpture, and literature comes not from their perception, but from the satisfaction they get out of recognizing the subject or understanding the narrative content. So, the subject of art refers to any person, object, scene, or event described or represented in a work of art. So, there are two types of subject of art. First is the representation or objective. Representational art or art figure or figurative art rather represents object or events in the real world, usually looking easily recognizable. So it uses form and is concerned with what is to be depicted in the artwork. For example, as a painting, sculpture, graphic arts, literature, and theater art. So we have here example of representational or objective, a Filipino painting depicting the old way of cooking. Next, we have non-representational or non-objective. These are those arts without any reference or anything outside itself or without representation. It is non-objective because it has no recognizable objects. It is abstract in the sense that it doesn't represent real objects in our world. It uses content and is concerned with how the artwork is depicted. Example of this is an abstract painting. That one, there is no representation. We cannot there's no recognizable. I can see umbrellas, but I don't think if how this painting is represented. It depends upon how you look at it. So sources of art or sources of subject art. Yan. So we have two sources. First, primary sources. um Primary sources provide first-hand testimony or direct evidence concerning a topic under investigation. They are created by witnesses or recorders who experience the events or conditions being documented. Often these sources are created at the time when the events or conditions are occurring, but primary resources can also include autobiographies, memoir, and oral histories recorded later. Primary sources rather are characterized by their content regardless of whether they are available in original format, in microfilm or microfiche, in digital format, or in published format. Okay. Now, number two is the secondary sources. Secondary sources interpret and analyze primary sources. They are routinely include um, pictures, quotes, or graphics of primary sources. Depending on the subject, newspaper and journal articles can fall into both categories. Um, because they are often written significantly after events by parties not directly involved but who have special expertise. They may provide historical context or critical perspective. So, for example, is Paul Goldberger's architectural, this one, Paul Goldberger's architectural review of the new Citi Field and Yankee Stadium in New York is a primary source because he is commenting directly on a current event, whereas an article surveying the history of New York City stadiums might look to the secondary source. However, years from now, scholars might look to the survey article as a primary example of key evaluatory architectural principles. So, Some of the sources of art subject are nature, animals, the people, landscapes. So these three are the most common inspiration and subject matter for art. Next, we have history. Artists are sensitive to the events taking place in the world around them. The dress, the houses, the manner of living, the thoughts of a period are necessarily reflected in the work of the artist. Number three, Greek and Roman mythology. These are the gods and goddesses in and its center is on deities and heroes. Next is the Judeo Christian tradition, religion and art, the Bible, the Apocrypha, the rituals of the church. And then the fifth one is the Oriental sacred text. The countries of the ancient, especially China, Japan, and India, have all produced sacred text of one kind or another, and these inspired various kinds of art. Most fruitful have been the texts and traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism. And other works of art. So these are the subjects that can be found in those works that take their subject directly from other works, other work of art. Okay, kinds of subject. So artists usually draw their arts through the different kinds of subject. So it includes still life, number one. So these are groups of inanimate objects arranged in an indoor setting. So example is we have here still life picture of an apple. Another example, we have flowers and fruits arrangements, dishes, food, pots and pans, musical instruments, and music sheets. The arrangement is that like to show particular human interest and activities. So the still life of Chinese and Japanese painters usually show flowers, fruits and leaves still in the natural setting and plucked from the branches. Today focus is on the exciting arrangement and combinations of the object shapes and colors. Next is landscapes, seascapes, and cityscapes. Artists have always been fascinated with their physical environment, alright? And the favorite subject of Chinese and Japanese painters, this landscapes, seascapes, and cityscapes. Fernando Amorsolo is well known for having romanticized Philippine landscape. So as you can see in our presentation, the painting of Antipolo by Fernando Amorsolo. In Europe, the paintings of pure landscapes without human figures were almost unheard of until the Renaissance period. They only served as backgrounds prior to this modern painter, which seemed to be attracted to scenes in cities. Vicente Manansala, Arturo Luz, and Mauro Malang Santos are some local painters who have done cityscapes. Next, we have animals as a subject. Animals, they have been represented by artists from almost every ages and places. In fact, the earliest known paintings are representation of animals on the walls of caves. The carabao has been a favorite subject for Filipino artists. The Maranaos have an animal form of sarimanok as their proudest prestige symbol. Sometimes, animals have been used as symbols in conventional religious art. So example, the dove stands for the Holy Spirit in representation of the Holy Trinity. The fish and lamb are symbols of Christ. The phoenix is the symbol of resurrection. The peacock is the symbol of immortality through Christ. So another one is portraits. People who have always been intrigued by the human face as an index of the owner's character. As an instrument expression, it is capable of showing a variety of moods and feelings. Portraits are realistic likeness of a person in sculpture, painting, drawing, or a print, but it need to be photographic likeness. A great portrait is a product of selective process. The artist highlighting certain features and de-emphasizing others. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but it has to be truthful. Besides the face, other things are worth noticing in portraits are subject's hands, which can be very expressive. His attire and accessories, for it reveals much about the subject's time. Statues and busts of leaders and heroes were quite common among the Romans, but it was not until the Renaissance that portrait painting became popular in Europe. Many artists did self portraits. Their own faces provided them unlimited opportunities for character study. Okay, so we have here example in our presentation, the portrait of Dr. Jose Rizal. So this is the bronze bust of Dr. Jose Rizal. Next, we have figures. The sculpture's chief subject has traditionally been the human body, nude or clothed. The body's form, structure, and flexibility offers the artist a big challenge to depict it in a variety of ways, ranging from the idealistic, as in the classical Greek sculptures, to the most abstract. So the grace and ideal proportions of the human form were captured in religious sculpture by the ancient Greeks. To them, physical beauty was the symbol of moral and spiritual perfection. Thus, they portray their gods and goddesses as possessing perfect human shapes. Next, we have everyday life. So, artists have always shown a deep concern about life around them, and many of them have recorded in paintings through observation of people going about their usual ways and performing their usual tasks. Genre paintings usually are representations of rice, greasers, cockfighters, candle vendors, street musicians, and children at play. Next, we have history and legends. History consists of verifiable facts, while legend of unverifiable ones. Although many of them are often accepted as true because tradition has held them so far, insofar as ancient past is concerned, it is difficult to tell how much of what we know now is history and how much is legend. History and legend are popular subjects of art. Next, we have religion and mythology. Art has been a handmaiden of religion. Most of the world's religions have used the arts to aid in worship, to instruct, to inspire feelings of devotion, and to impress and convert non believers. The Christian Church commissioned craftsmen to tell the stories about Christ and the saints in pictures, usually in mosaic, murals, and stained glass windows in churches. It also resorted to the presentation of tableau and plays to preach and to teach. So the term myth comes from the Greek word mythos, meaning story or legend. Myth tries to explain the relationships between gods and humans. Next, we have dreams and fantasies. Dreams are usually vague and illogical. Artists, especially the surrealists, have tried to depict dreams as well as the grotesque terrors and apprehensions that lurk in the depths of subconscious. A dream may be lifelike situation. Therefore, we would not know if an art is based on a dream unless the artist explicitly mentions it. But if the picture suggests the strange, the irrational, and the absurd, we can classify it right away as a fantasy or dream. Although the artist may have not forgotten from the idea of a dream at all, but the workings of his imagination, no limits can be imposed on imagination. So we have here different levels of meaning. So a subject matter has three different levels of meaning. First, factual meaning, a literal meaning or the narrative content in the work which can be directly apprehended because the objects presented are easily recognized. Example are stones, river, house, and etc. So, under conventional meaning, this refers to the special meaning that a certain object has in a particular culture or group of people. Examples: flag, symbol of nation; cross for Christianity; crescent moon for Islam. So, last one is the subjective meaning. Any personal meaning consciously or unconsciously conveyed by the artist using a private symbolism which stems from his own association of certain objects, actions, or colors with past experience. Okay, so that's all for the chapter 1 of art appreciation. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe this channel. Thank you so much.